So that said, we will now take a question from Toastmaster Arati. Can she be spotlighted, please?
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Mini. Good evening, sir. My name is Arati.
Hiya.
On one side, we say the pen is mightier than the sword. Tahotep, the Egyptian wise man, said the strength of one is the tongue and the speech is mightier than all the fighting. So both the pen and the tongue are considered as strong weapons for fighting for a cause. I'm not going to ask you which is your favorite choice of weapon, but since you're both an orator and a writer, how does being a writer help you as an orator, or does it at all? And I'm sure that all Toastmasters would like to know that.
Yes and no, Arati, because there are some, shall we say, speeches which are meant to be lectures. There is a degree of formality involved in the lecture format, often a structured, formal tribute to some person whom you're honoring, after whom a lecture is named. Then you deliver the lecture and you turn to the audience, and often you find yourself fated because of a particular theme or issue. It's a very formal, structured thing. They often ask for the written text so they can publish it, etc. In those situations, it becomes necessary to write out a speech in advance, which I don't normally do 90% of the time. But for a formal lecture, a good written text is required. And of course, you have to read it out in a way that's still engaging. There is nothing worse than actually watching somebody with his nose buried in the page, repeating words that he's not able to feel anymore. He may have felt it when he wrote it, but he's not able to convey it when he speaks it. That would be terrible. But if you are able to deliver a written text well, there are many formal lecture situations where you need a written text. For the rest, however, writing and speaking are different arts. You do describe issues differently when you speak and you don't have a text in front of you. Whether it's a story you're telling or an argument you're making, a certain level of informality comes into your oral remarks, which are part of the charm of engaging with somebody who's listening. Whereas a written text, the listener or the reader is anonymous and is somewhere else. You are in a situation where honestly, you are not going to be in a position to be informal with that person, because you are delivering something that is a formally constructed sentence or paragraph. So writing can be an asset for the formal lecture. It can be unnecessary or even a disqualification in an informal talk or speech, where the message is often more communicated in informal language. You know, you often see prominent people giving so-called interviews, which are actually written answers sent by email or WhatsApp. And those written answers don't sound like an interview. They sound like a press release. And you know, immediately this person has sent something in writing. Whereas if you were talking about a genuine interview, there would be informality in language, there'll be expressions, there'll be some infelicities of grammar. It doesn't matter, because the rules of the game are different when it comes to informal speech or informal conversation. So my advice to you is, again, depends on the audience. In a formal lecture, don't go unprepared, have a text, all of that. But when you're talking about an informal audience, student audience, not for perhaps a formal graduation ceremony, but just or a gathering like this where we're all talking to each other almost as friends and peers, it is best not to have a text, but to actually engage directly. And I particularly enjoy the question and answer format, because then you are able to directly address what's on the minds of the people you're speaking to.
With that said, we will move on to the second question from Toastmaster Mohina Chandran.
Sir, thank you, DTM Minimum. Sir, my question, from St. Stephen's to Fletcher School, you excelled as a stupendous student with ample estimophilia, and later become an erudite diplomat and a great orator and an acclaimed writer. At this point of time, what is your suggestion to young aspirants in this generation?
You know, they all joke about practice, practice, practice. You know, there's this joke about how do you get to Carnegie Hall in America, big concert theater. And the answer is practice, practice, practice. And that's true of almost any endeavor in life. I think if at all you think of me as a good speaker, it's not because I did well in school or college, or I got good marks, or I passed exams well. It comes entirely from the fact that I spoke a lot. And because I spoke a lot, sometimes I didn't speak so well, I learned from it. Sometimes I spoke well and I said, okay, this is what works with an audience. I'll repeat this kind of approach. Sometimes I invented a joke that succeeded. And I said, great, I've got a winner, and so on. So keeping on doing something and doing it often enough gives you the felicity and the confidence to do it again. So for my mind, I would say that if you are looking at what people want to do better as speakers, the best way to do it is to have the courage to go ahead and do it. Sometimes you'll fall flat on your face. Sometimes you'll feel nervous. You'll have butterflies in your stomach. It'll be terrible. But believe me, once you have done it a few times and won over an audience, you'll find yourself looking forward to it, and the nervousness will not matter. It may still be there, but it won't matter. It won't hold you up. It won't trip you up. As far as academic excellence and so on is concerned, it's not, sadly perhaps, it's not a sine qua non for a good speaker. There are some brilliant academic students and scholars who are terrible speakers, who actually will really make you feel that they're burying you in their footnotes. Whereas there are some not so good scholars and students who are very compelling speakers. So I don't think the two actually have much to do with each other.
So we have one more question coming up, and that will be from Toastmaster Nitin.
Good evening, sir. In the process of writing some of the most acclaimed novels, I'm sure that you would have had a writer's block or too many noises in your head pulling you in different directions. How do you handle them?
Thank you. Well, the thing about writing, and I know that goes beyond the concerns of Toastmasters generally, the thing about writing, to be honest, is that it does require a certain amount of solitude, a certain amount of ability to concentrate specifically on the issues that you're dealing with between you and the keyboard and the computer screen, or you and the page that you're writing on if you're still a pen and ink writer. That's frankly something that you will have to figure out for yourself, how to exclude the distractions. My challenge has been my work. And because I have always been in very demanding professions, whether it was at the UN, in areas like peacekeeping and other activities where interruptions were very common, or whether it's been in something like this area of work, namely politics, where again, the demands of constituents, of party workers, phone calls and so on happen very, very quickly and very brief notice. When that happens, the simple answer is, quite frankly, that you really have to choose. And if writing is what matters to you, you end up sacrificing some of your other obligations. They may be social obligations, professional obligations. Unfortunately, in politics, you can't sacrifice political obligations. Those always supersede everything else. And therefore, what I have found myself doing, I have to admit, is that I have sometimes sacrificed my own writing for the demands of my work. And the result is that writing suffers. Now, with nonfiction, I've been able to do that because you can go back to what you were writing, see the train of your argument, pick up the threads, and then go out and continue it and conclude it. What is made very difficult is fiction writing, because with fiction, you need not only time and freedom from distraction, you need a space inside your head to create an alternative universe and to populate it with characters, incidents, anecdotes, and so on that are as real to you as those you're encountering in your daily life. That's like creating a glass palace of illusion that only you are occupying along with your imagined world. Well, if the phone is ringing all the time, or people are interrupting all the time, you're being rushed off to go to events or whatever all the time, that glass palace shatters very easily. And as with all things made of something as fragile as that, it's difficult to keep reconstructing it. So my laptops have been littered with the attempts to begin novels that I've not concluded. And finally, I said, this is not realistic. It's better not to try and write a novel as long as I'm a working man. One day I will give up all of this and have a chance to go back to fiction. But till now, let me write nonfiction, because that is something that is interruptible, that I can come back to despite interruption. That's the way I've been able to do it. It's not easy, but if writing really matters to you, you'll find a way of doing it. I remember in my early days as a novelist, writing at home, writing at night, writing in planes, writing with papers, scraps of paper pushed against the steering wheel of a car while my wife was shopping, and I was writing a paragraph of my novel. That's life. That's what writers have to do if they really want to get their words out onto the printed page.
Thank you, sir. I have heard somewhere that you actually wrote the book after the Oxford debate. So you had actually said how your publisher actually conned you into writing the
He
book
talked me
after
into
that.
it. He said that the speech has gone so extremely viral that there would be an audience for a book. And I said, surely people know all of this already. And his answer was, no, they don't, because if they did know all of this already, your speech wouldn't have gone viral. So with that argument, I decided to pick up the threads and flesh out the arguments I'd made in the speech in the book. But as you'll know, one thing that's true is that because the speech preceded the book is also an argument. It's not really just a narrative.
Yes.
It does what the speech does in terms of arguing a case against British colonialism.
Yes, very true. And we are getting a lot of questions. I know the audience wants a piece of the answers that you want, but
Unfortunately, I have another
hard
commitment
stop.
at 7:30.
So
But I'm
we
very
are-
impressed there's so many people out there with an interest in these matters. I want to thank them all for doing that. I look forward to attending an event of Toastmasters in Thiruvananthapuram one day when I'm out there, and I hope we'll have a chance. I've done one event, I remember once with Khairunista, the writer of children's books,
Yes.
for a Toastmasters chapter, and we'll find another opportunity. But good to see such a large turnout. I see 635 of you signed in. Delighted about that. I wish I had more time, but I'm already 2 minutes late for my next engagement. So I'll thank you all, and I wish you a happy continuation of your meeting. And let's hope there'll be an opportunity to renew this relationship on a future occasion.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you all
Thank you
very
so much.
Thank you, Minnie. Thank you, all of you.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. So with that said, it has been a marathon amount of questions asked. I'm sure that people had a lot of more questions, and maybe, like he said, we can invite him back again for another round. So over to you, MC for the day, Niranjana.
Distinguished Toastmaster Vanitha Rangarajan Jha, our District Director of 1-to-1, is an individual whose crown is adorned by many jewels. The brightest so far being that she was a Program Quality Director responsible for the highest percentage of distinguished clubs in Region 13 and ranking second in the world. Ma'am, it is your turn to take the virtual stage for your words of felicitation.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Niranjana. Let me begin with the question of the year. Visible and audible? All right. I am so thrilled to have this one very event being conducted by Division G. So I just want to say, shout out the loudest of all possible appreciation for the Division G in District 121 for making this happen for the Toastmaster community. I was under immense pressure today, thinking, what am I even going to say to this August gathering, that I actually dusted out a Renan Martin book. You know, Shashi Tharoor and all that, that pressure naturally builds up. And then I realized, if Toastmasters has taught me one thing, it is just to be authentic. So no fake words will come out of my mouth today just to impress any bit of an audience today. But let me tell you what got me going to come to this meeting. I had a whole bowl of tair sadam. Tair sadam, for the uninitiated, curd rice. Yogurt with rice. A weird combination outside of the south of India, but pretty much staple food for a lot of us here. Give me a thumbs up if you absolutely love tair sadam, the curd rice. All right, let's get you familiar with something else. Appam and puttu and kadla curry. A thumbs up for that. A thumbs up for Rajma Chawal. A thumbs up for the Dal Khichdi. A thumbs up for the biryani. Clearly, being a foodie, my list is endless, but you get the drift. The comfort food that we talk about. The food that makes you feel at home. Now, if it's not food that's to our rescue, there's always go-to people. How many of you have this one amazing best friend who knows you in and out? Absolutely to the very last hair on your head, but will challenge you every single time, but watch you grow. You do have a best friend like that. If you're lucky, might end up being your soulmate. Even lucky, you might end up getting married to one. Well, if it's not the comfort food, it is that best friend. But have you had a safe haven? A place where you can go to and not be judged? Not have these butterflies in the stomach being evaluated? Not have this weight of, oh my God, what are people going to say? We found out that 97 years and still kicking, there's apparently one such place. Toastmasters for everyone. Have you gone to a club meeting feeling extremely nervous and wondering, oh my God, is this really the right thing to do? But went there and felt at home, felt like you had that tair sadam, felt like you had that dal khichdi? Did you go and feel that this is one place, no matter how many times I fail, they will pat me on the back and say, chalo, let's move on. Let's go forward. Let's see how we can do better. If Toastmasters is not giving you that feeling, then ask yourself again, what are we doing differently that Toastmasters works for us? All of the keywords that a person who's not even in Toastmasters today talked about. Authenticity being the very best. Practice. Even for someone like Shashi Tharoor, he came down and he said, it's not overnight that he became the speaker that he is. It took him years of practice. Let me think of the last place that I've seen where practice grounds are pretty much the norm. The Toastmaster Club meeting. How many times have you come to a club meeting and repeated that speech? With the online luxury, gone clubs after clubs, repeated the same speech until you perfected it. Are we using Toastmasters right? Is Toastmasters your Tair Sadam? Ask yourself. Mini and everyone else in Division G, thank you for giving this opportunity to truly hear out an iconic voice, not just of India, but the world over. This is not an opportunity that comes by every day. So every single member that joined in to listen to this speaker, I want to say, well done, because you decide to take that one spoon of your Tair Sadam. Back to you, Naranjana.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Vanitha Rangarajan. Now I'm feeling a little hungry. But now the curtains fall on this unforgettable event. It's with an attitude of immense gratitude that I propose the vote of thanks on behalf of Division G. On behalf of Division Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Mini Mohan, and her stellar team comprising of Assistant Division Directors, Distinguished Toastmaster Jane Joseph and Usha Rajan, Area Directors, Toastmasters Aarti Rajeshwari, Mohana Chandran and Nitin Suresh, Division Awards Coordinator, Toastmaster A.N. Shobha, and the Division Public Relations Manager, which is myself. I take this opportunity to thank our esteemed guest, the Honourable Member of Parliament, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, for being here despite his extremely busy schedule. I thank him for giving us the opportunity to interact with such an esteemed guest as just himself. I also take this moment to thank our District Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Vanitha Rangarajan, for her guidance and her words of felicitation. We are grateful to our Program Quality Director, Distinguished Toastmaster Narayanan M, for his unstinting support and also for facilitating the provision of the Zoom account, and our District Administrator, Distinguished Toastmaster Gokul P. Menon, for helping us navigate the tech terrain. A meeting of this magnitude requires diligent and prompt response to run smoothly. We have been lucky to have 3 experienced Zoom masters in Toastmaster Jayakishore, Distinguished Toastmaster Shaji Janardhanan, and Toastmaster Jacob Tarath. Thank you for the smooth facilitation of the meeting platform. Last but not least, I would like to thank each and every one of you, the club officers, Toastmasters, and guests, for being here and making this program a grand success. So, let us all embark on the journey to find our voice in the noise. Thank you. I now declare this meeting to be closed.